Before we jump into the episode this week, there's a few things you need to know about what's happening in my corner of the world in October. Number one, the DIY podcasting course is coming later this month. If you want to be one of the first people to know that enrollment is open, click the link in the show notes, enter your name, email address, and I'll send you a little something special when enrollment opens just for being in the know. DIY podcasting has been a long time coming in my head. After 4 years and 186 episodes and counting, and 55,000 plus downloads, which isn't huge to some people, but to me, I'm so honored that 55,000 plus times people have pressed play to listen to me talk. So, what that means is the important thing behind those numbers is that my message is getting to my people, and it has happened over 55,000 times. It's time for me to teach you how to get your message out to the world via a podcast. And in true Nichole Joy style, we're going to make it easy as F so that you can get your message out there. The course will open later this month, so stay tuned. But again, if you want to be one of the first to know, and if you know that this is probably something that you're going to want to do, put your name on the list and I'll send you a little something special. Announcement number two, private mentorship spots are available. Now, something important to know is that these are fully customizable depending on your needs. Click the link in the show notes. You can apply. I'll reach out to you. We'll schedule time to chat and we can talk about what that looks like and how I can best help you. Number three, if you have been wanting to work with me in person and or hang out with me in person, I invite you to come to the Birthworker Retreat. I am co-hosting the Birthworker Retreat with a few other individuals in the birth space this January in Clearwater Beach, Florida. So if you haven't already heard about it, click the link in the show notes. All of the details are there, information on how to get tickets, and there's a Black Birthworker Scholarship open. Number four, the alumni group is now open on Facebook. If you've taken any of my digital courses, including the most recent course Creation Made Easy, if you have been in my mastermind in the past or in my membership, or you've taken any of my courses, you are invited to come join the alumni group. It's a free group on Facebook where you can connect with other people who have taken courses, link up, collaborate, hold each other accountable, go back through courses as desired. I'm excited to see you there. And if you have any questions about any of the previous announcements, contact me at Nichole@NicholeJoy.com. So something you may not know about me is that I used to be a runner. And to be clear, I'm not talking about like I was a track star or I ran in high school or junior high or anything like that. But after high school, I picked up exercising and I enjoyed running in college and beyond. And I was running a little over 6 miles several times a week, sometimes 5 times a week, combined with a little bit of weight training. And I shifted and did different things throughout the years. The morning that I found out I was pregnant with my first child, I I drank half of a sugar-free Red Bull, ran a little over 6 miles, and when I got back and I went to get in the shower, I remembered that I had peed on a pregnancy stick. So I went and checked it. Sure enough, I was pregnant. And the fact that I drank a sugar-free Red Bull back then tells you quite a lot about how much I've evolved. And if you watch my stories, I share quite a bit about how I take care of my vessel these days. Point being, I was really into running back then, right? And I continued to run for the first like 5 months of my pregnancy until my belly was so heavy pounding on my pelvic floor that I was like, maybe I should take a break from running. And I continued to lift weights. I continued to do Pure Bar. They had the Pure Bar Light at the time that coincided with my lunch hour. So I used to go to Pure Bar Light a couple times a week on my lunch break. And in lieu of running, I started walking. And at first, I had mega resistance to it because something that showed up in my life, not just in running, was this constant desire to overachieve and to push myself and to work harder and to go harder and not to slow down because I was so afraid that if I slowed down, I would miss out on something. If I slowed down, I might not reach a goal. If I slowed down, I might fail at what I don't know. So at first, my 5 month pregnant brain was super resistant to walking. I thought, this is not effective. I'm not going to burn as many calories. I'm not going to have as good of a workout. I'm not sweating as much. Is it even worth my time? And I found myself doing my morning power walks throughout the rest of the pregnancy, power walking through my neighborhood next to a lot of older women. And I used to laugh at myself a little bit, but over the years, it kind of stuck with me. And after I gave birth to my first child, I couldn't wait to get back running again. I couldn't wait till my body felt strong enough to get back running, to get back to doing things. And I felt like that in a lot of other areas of life, not just with running. I felt like I needed to get back to doing stuff. Taking the time off was important. And I knew that, but I felt like I was going to fall behind in life. That old overachieving mentality, that old push and push hard and hustle was really tricky for me to break. So, several months after I had my first, when I felt like my body was finally ready to start running again, I gave it a go and I did jog. I did do some running, but what I found was that my hips just did not feel the same after having a child, and that running felt really hard on my body. I could push through and run, but so much of what I had learned about power walking, and at the time I used to track calories and see how much energy I burned while I was working out. I don't do that anymore. For the record, I have no clue how many calories I burn anymore. At the time, for several months that I was this power walking queen, I learned that power walking can be just as effective and enjoyable. And I also learned that it's not as harsh on the body, right? Pushing and running as hard as I was running on concrete for the amount of hours and the distance that I was going was really hard on my hips. It was hard on my knees. And a little vain part of me heard that running too much could cause the skin to wrinkle. And I was like, you know what? I think I'm just going to stick to walking. And that has stayed with me. I've continued to try different things in my exercise routine and how I take care of my body. And I have continued to evolve in that way and how I nourish this vessel, right? And I did go back and revisit bar for a while. I got into Peloton and now I lift weights again. Walking has been one of those things that I have consistently enjoyed doing ever since that first pregnancy. And so, what this has to do with business is at the beginning of this summer, I was thinking about how I wanted to approach my business during the summer, right? I've shared quite a bit about how my summers have evolved as a mother and an entrepreneur over the years. So, at the beginning of the summer, one of the decisions that I made was to work summer hours. And at the advice of one of my guides, I was advised to contemplate walking my business during the summer instead of running my business during the summer. And that felt like a weight was lifted off my chest. It felt very spacious and it felt very freeing. A little bit scary, but I've also felt that scary feeling before at the thought of slowing down. And I've learned how to hold myself through it. I learned how to hold myself through it in my first postpartum, my second postpartum, my third postpartum. And really, this has been part of my journey since I've been on this spiritual path of slowing down in more and more departments of my life and how I'm not actually going to miss out on anything. And I know where part of that miss out energy comes from. And it came to a head full speed in 2016 when I was pregnant with my second child and my brother passed away. If you know the story, I've spoke about it on the podcast before, but if you haven't heard the story, my brother was 21 and he was killed in a motorcycle accident. And one of the results of his passing was that I felt this crazy desire to get everything done. I was worried I would run out of time because I just watched my brother run out of time and wasn't able to do things that maybe he wanted to do with his life. And I was so afraid of running out of time. And so I felt this surge of energy to hurry up and get shit done. And I was already running my business at the time. I was not yet into doula work, but I was starting to explore business. And it was one of the reasons I got out of the corporate world, really, was because I felt like I can't waste time anymore doing anything that isn't lighting me up. And that's important, and helpful. But then shifting where I shifted may have been a little bit unhealthy, at least for me it was. And this is not to say that it's the same for anybody else because we know how that goes. But for me, it was teetering on the edge of unhealthy because I felt it was coming from a place of feeling like I was running out of time, which, if you are well versed in this language, it felt like scarcity. It felt like a fear energy. I was doing things and pushing hard from a fear space, and I felt like I was going to run out of time. Now, the example that I opened the episode with I felt this push, the energy from which I was running and wanted to continue running was also from a fear based energy of feeling like I was going to be behind. And so this has been one of the biggest things I healed during the summer that I decided I'm going to continue into Q4 is walking my business and healing that need to run, healing that underlying fear that I'm falling behind or that I'm going to miss something. And I do think it's important to note the difference between hustling from a place of fear of missing out or fear of getting behind or fear of not getting enough done or fear of not reaching my financial goals or anything fear or scarcity related. There's a difference between that and hustling from a place of holy shit, this thing I'm building is amazing. And I just like, I have the energy and the desire to pour myself into it. I want to work on it at 4 a.m. when I'm awake and the kids are still asleep. Because yes, I do that. I'm not advising you to go do that to meet your goals. For me, that's when my brain sometimes turns on. And I'm not hustling from a place of I better get this done or else. It's more of like a fun hustle vibe. Hustle isn't always a bad word. To me, when hustle comes from that place of I'm so freaking excited about this and it feels good to be creating and birthing something to share with the world, that is a different energy. So I say all of this to say, I hope that as we move into Q4, you're able to slow down, pause, and be intentional with how you operate in Q4. There is a lot of noise on the internet. If you do any kind of business stuff online, there's a lot of noise on the internet of pushing harder during Q4 to reach your goals. How are you going to finish the year? Let's finish strong. Let's push hard. And I'm sorry, but push hard when it comes to business is not a phrase that I want to associate with how I reach my goals. It doesn't feel good in my system anymore. So I'm not doing that. And you can do it if you want, totally okay, no judge. But I encourage you to look at your Q4 and be intentional with how you want to move in Q4. What do these last 3 months of the year look like for you? Would it feel good for you to walk your business? And what is the energy from which you're coming at your decision? Now, whether you decide to continue working towards a certain financial goal, is it because it's an excited energy or is it because it's a fearful energy? Like if I don't meet this goal, I'm fearing blank. Or if I'm not pushing hard for clients, I'm afraid of blank. And the energy from which we're coming is the most important part of this. I, for one, will be walking my business for Q4, and I have a couple of exciting things planned. So stay tuned.